finally, a source of raw, real, and honest information on healthcare issues that matter most. Welcome to BS Free MD. From the latest medical information to how to stay sane as a doctor or a patient, no subject is taboo and no BS is allowed. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Doctors May and Tim Hindmarsh.
All right, welcome back. You're here for another episode of BS Free MD. Today, I am your host, May Hindmarsh, and Tim is out and playing on the East Coast on a kite somewhere. So pray for his safety, his well-being in return. And today we're doing something different. We are bringing you a previously recorded podcast that we did as we were guests on a podcast called Heart Mojo with Melinda Smith at New Cleveland Radio and her producer / co-host Karen Hale. We thought it would be fun to just share this recording that we did, repurpose some stuff while Tim's away on vacation. We're talking to them about issues in healthcare, and I guess I could call it bridging the gap between the patient and the physician and managing everything in between. And we just share our perspectives on how things have gotten a little convoluted, but how patients can advocate for themselves and how you can help family members be advocates even through, strange and trying times in your healthcare process when you feel like you're lost in the shuffle between a mid-level physician, an ER doc, and all the paperwork and bureaucracy in between. So we hope you enjoy our discussion that we had with them, and we'll check up with you later.
It is time for Heart Mojo with Melinda Smith. And for those of you watching, you may notice that there are some discoloration in this video. Apologize for that. And sound quality may not be exactly the same as when I record at home. I happen to be in Fort Worth, Texas, and I am sitting in my son's closet recording today's show with Melinda. And Melinda, you were nice enough to suggest, well, Karen, maybe you don't want to do it today. You've been nursing an ill son. But I said, I need the hour to get away. So here we are. And we have two doctors with us. So do you want to do a little intro and have them tell us who they are?
Well, so I read your bio. Honestly, I think you two should talk about you because I could never do justice for all the things you two have accomplished. So tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, thanks. Let's see. I'll start. Tim and I, May and Tim Hindmarsh, we're a dual physician couple. We've been married just about as long as we've been doctors.
We've been married 3 days longer than
you got it wrong.
No, wrong. We were doctors. We're doctors 3 days longer.
3 days. So you waited until you finished, right? And then you got married.
We graduated on a Thursday, got married on that Sunday.
Well, there you go.
And then went to our residency. And we are both actually Canadian, born and raised, and did our medical school and residency training in Canada, and then immigrated to the beautiful US of A for all the freedoms that it offered and the American dream, even some Canadians wanting to escape. So we've been practicing medicine in the US and the Pacific Northwest since 1994. And we were small town country docs, did everything from patient practice, ICU, coroner. Tim did a full obstetrics practice and raised our kids. We've gone from small town, small medicine that's gradually built up over the years into big corporate medicine, which we left. I've worked in medium-sized organizations, worked through COVID in COVID clinics, which actually was a real, for me, and I think for Tim as well, kind of our Normandy moment that really actually revitalized this, believe it or not, in some ways, as opposed to most healthcare workers, because we felt like we were stepping up to the plate and really helping people through a horrible time in our lifetime. And now we've come full circle. we're podcasting since COVID, and Tim's helping us start up clinic locally in independent practice. We're empty nesters, and we've had lots of adventures over the years, from missions to crazy sports to a thriving marriage and all the things in between. There, that's it in a nutshell.
Now you see why I said I could not remember all of that. And I wouldn't put it in the way that you do, which is very meaningful to be able to tell people what you've gone through. So some exciting things, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I have to ask, though, most U.S. citizens think it's better to go to Canada for medicine, right? To be up there for their medical procedures. You came here. Can you talk a little bit about what made you come to the United States versus staying in Canada?
Canadian healthcare system is perfect if you want to stand in line until you die, which literally happened to May's mother. She stood in line until she died.
And,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
just say that. So first off, I'll let Tim. Usually, it's,
No, I'll just kind of
him
I'll
that
pull the
does
pin
most
out
of
of the
talking.
grenade,
There you
and
go.
we'll
Just go ahead and go for it. We like it.
I'm going to do a global thing briefly, and then he can get into the nitty gritty because he's better at that. But times have changed from when we left Canada to now. Obviously, that was in 94 to now. The healthcare system in Canada is pretty much the same. It's socialized one payer system, which is the government. That means they have all the money. They control what happens with your tax dollars, which pays for healthcare, and they make the decisions. And they control the physicians and the healthcare organizations. Medicine, when we moved to the US in 94, as you know, has changed a lot in the US. So while things might have, certain aspects of healthcare looked more rosy to us back then because we were in a smaller system and had more independence. Yes, things have changed now. Some not for the good. Some are still much better. And so I'll just say that the US system is not perfect either. It has a lot of flaws in an opposite direction. Costs are crazy, but we'll explain why we chose this system over Canadian. And people think that the Canadian system is the American system, but with access and coverage for all, and it's not.
It's not. That's the key. There is some very, very specific advantages of the system in Canada. There's no question. If you're young and reasonably healthy and you need your appendix taken out, it's perfect. You don't have to worry about health insurance. You show up, you're going to get your emergency surgery. It's not an issue. If you want anything elective done, forget it. I mean, it takes forever. So if you want a knee replacement, it's 2 or 3 years on the waiting list.
Wow.
And so they have the waiting list because, I mean, you can say what you want about why it's a waiting list, but the reason you make people wait for procedures is so they die on the list. There's no question that that's the case.
It's called rationing. They have a certain amount of money and they have to decide how they're going to spend it.
But the fact is that healthcare has to be rationed. It's a limited resource.
Mhm.
Like nobody can ever have all of the healthcare they absolutely want. That's impossible because to get healthcare, you need to have highly trained people. You have to have physicians and specialist physicians and surgeons and physical therapists and nurses. And all of these people have tremendous input costs and a tremendous time cost so that they can take care of you. So you're going to ration healthcare no matter what. Okay. If you had a 100% free market system, which we don't even close to that in the United States, we have a crony capitalist system where gigantic corporations join with the government and make the rules. So in some respects, we have the worst system you could invent because it's so unbelievably corruptible. And we've seen that like crazy in the last 3 years.
Oh, for sure.
Or, who writes the Affordable Care Act? Well, the insurance companies wrote the Affordable Care Act. People don't understand that. Insurance companies and pharma wrote that. So then it becomes the Unaffordable Care Act. And there's, there's some nuance in this, but there's some big picture items in here that I think it's really important for your listeners to understand. The Canadian system could be absolutely amazing if they did one thing, which is allow people to buy private insurance, which they don't. So Canada is not like other countries that have a bigger safety net from a socialized government system. It's not like the National Health Service in England, where you can opt out
Mhm.
or you can still have NIH coverage, but you can pay outside the system. You can have your own insurance. That would get rid of a lot of the waiting lists in Canada. I think that it would increase the quality because, physicians and hospital systems would be competing for those dollars, which are good things. They're innovation drivers, but it doesn't happen. The Canadian Health Act, when it was passed in, I think, the early 70s, made it illegal to bill outside of the system. So as a physician, I can't just say, I'll see you, but just pay me cash. That's against the law. It's changing very slowly in some provinces. But if Canada actually had a two-tiered system like that, it would be great, because it's a very resource-rich country that has, a stable economy, again, and a very small population.
So why won't they consider it? Like, why don't they consider adding in private insurance or the ability to pay?
It's happening in the province of Alberta, and it's slowly kind of metastasizing, but it really is. It's a commitment to this kind of social ethic of it has to be the same for everyone or else it's not fair.
It's a very cultural based, I think, decision. And fair across the board is kind of a theme that goes, you'll see it. I mean, with healthcare, but other things as well. It's fair. If it's fair, it's got to be fair and equal for all. So
But it's really not fair and equul for all.
No.
Nothing else in our lives is. I mean,
I was going to say, why should that be?
the food we eat,
But
the houses we
you know,
live in, the cars we drive, the education,
Schooling, yeah.
well, I know last summer my husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and it was very minimal. And his doctor said, "You're very lucky to be living in the US because we can do treatment. If you lived in Canada with your score numbers, they would tell you to go home and wait till they got worse." And we just looked at them and we said, "But why? Isn't this less expensive for us
care
and
now.
the government to do it now?" And he said, "Yes, but be glad that you're here, because in Canada, you'd be sent home to die."
That's correct. And that's kind of what we see that happen with patients, family, friends. Same thing with prostate cancer, leukemias. My mother, that was just insane, her story, but she had surgery right at Christmas time and was diagnosed with metastatic a rare abdominal cancer, a carcinoid that was more aggressive really than we knew, but she was sent home and they said, "Well, we'll call you when there's an appointment or room to see the oncologist." And there was only 3 in the province at that time. And the waiting list was such that you just had to wait.
So I answered the phone call from the cancer clinic. Sorry to interrupt,
No, that's fine.
but I want to put a point on this. So she had surgery in December for the diagnosis of this cancer. I answered the phone. The cancer clinic had an appointment for her on April 1st. So almost 5 months later. Unfortunately, she died on March 31st. So it was when they said, is Barbara there? I said, "No, I'm sorry. She passed away yesterday. Thanks for your help." Click.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if you remember, Karen, I had breast cancer. So when I felt that I had a problem, I didn't have any health coverage. So I went to my OBGYN, who I've known for years, and I said, "I think I have a problem." And he said, "Okay, well, we can get you in." And I said, "Problem is I don't have insurance right now." And he said, "Oh." And I said, "What if I just pay you cash?" "Nope, I can't do that." Our local hospital, one of the biggest around, and you could probably guess because I'm in Cleveland, said, "No, you couldn't see me." So he said, "Come back in January when you have insurance," because I had to buy it on the open market. So it took another 3 months to get in to get the mammogram to find out that I had stage 2B breast cancer, and it had gone to the lymph glands. Now, had they saw me in October, maybe, and it was a rash. And see, I worked in plastic surgery, and I had a lot of breast cancer patients. So I knew that the rash was an odd, thing to see. So you go to an emergency room and they're going to go, "You have a rash," and they're going to give me a cortisone cream and send me home. That's what they would do. So that's a system where we have insurance, but when you don't have insurance, you don't necessarily get the care you need quick enough here, for sure.
Well, yeah, but it's not. I totally agree, but it's not insurance. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, if it's truly insurance, then you would pay based on your behaviors, just like you pay automobile insurance based on your driving record, and it wouldn't be very expensive. It would be very competitive unless you were morbidly obese smoker with high blood pressure and a heroin habit or something. And then, obviously that would be more money because your chances of getting sick.
Right.
But, the best solution I've heard to this problem is a hybridization of expensive inpatient medicine and surgeries and outpatient, what we do, primary care. So the best solution I heard to this is, you want incentives aligned to keep people healthy and to motivate behaviors and to increase access. So if you made the primary care side essentially just cash, it would become very inexpensive. And I would argue access would explode because you would be paying way less money. Like we could see patients for a copay, honestly, if you did it right. And you're paying that anyways. So why ship your money off to massive multinational corporations for them to redistribute it as they will? Like, tell me how that's going to make things cheaper. It's not.
Right. It doesn't.
So then if you had the hospital side more, those physicians more salaried, maybe that side is more dependent on government oversight. I don't know. So because you don't want to go to a spine surgeon or a breast cancer surgeon that gets paid to do more surgeries. You want to go to a breast cancer surgeon that does the right surgeries.
Right.
Right. They've tracked this, you get paid more money to do a C-section, and then they wonder why C-section rates go
right.
up.
Well, and I was lucky because I knew enough about surgery and breast cancer and things like that I could be an advocate for myself. Most people can't because they don't know enough. Right. So I shopped and I made sure I had the right surgeon, and I was in control of my care and what I did. And I chose to do some treatments and I chose not to do others, even though they wanted to do it all. I mean, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars it was. And I said, nope, I'm not going to do this. I don't feel that the percentage of increase of my life expectancy was going to be beneficial, right? 3%, not big change to go and do radiation on top of chemotherapy. So I chose not to do it. But not everybody, they'll just do it all. And you're right. They tell them, yeah, we do every bit of this. It's crazy. And I feel bad. I watched people like a deer with the headlights, right? They don't know what to do. They're just following blindly along. If they have insurance, they get everything. And if they don't have insurance, like my cousin who had breast cancer about the same time, they did minimal. They did a little lumpectomy. They did, mastectomy and lymph glands and all sorts of things that they did not offer her at all because she was on Medicaid and young on Medicaid. If you're Medicare, Medicaid, and over 65, they'll do everything for you. But for her being 50 some years old at the time, she did not get the same care.
It's sad. I was going to say the other thing that came to my mind is, this is the United States. So every state is independent. But I think in this, without trying to make it socialized medicine, there's got to be a way to break down the lines between the states so that people can shop across markets in an open access system. So pick like the state that we're in, you can go and shop for individual healthcare plans very easily. In another state where our daughter's in, it's not so easy if you want to just shop for open access. And so to me, that just doesn't make sense that whatever state you're living in, you're really limited by what that state offers. Why not open it up across the entire U.S. to the open markets as far as if you're shopping for individual health care?
Why not be able to buy what you want?
Right.
So if you don't want brain aneurysm insurance and you have a brain aneurysm, well, you didn't make that financial decision. That one's on you. And because, why should a retired nun be paying for someone's birth control? I mean, it has no effect on her. And this is where you get into these are very complicated, hard to answer questions, right? Like if I live my life absolutely perfectly, and I don't drink and I don't smoke and I exercise vigorously and I have an impeccable diet and I never am 1 ounce overweight, why should I be paying for my neighbor who smokes 3 packs a day and has lung cancer? I mean, those are the questions, because
Right.
we've reached a point in healthcare where most of what we're treating that's really expensive, especially most of what we're treating that's really expensive that we do in my business, because I do primary care, is behavioral medicine.
Right.
You know,
Well, I will say that I was not the poster child for breast cancer. I was a fitness coach. Never smoked a day in my life, moderate alcohol usage, never did drugs, wasn't overweight, really took good care of myself. And there I was with breast cancer. So I probably would have thought at, that point in my life, hey, I don't need that, right? I don't need that extra insurance, but ultimately I did need it. So I guess you never quite know. I mean, you can only do the best you can do.
Right. There, I mean, the cancer, the big C word, that, I mean, there are lifestyle things that impact it, but you're right. It can spray gun anyone.
I mean,
we're talking
look, I mean,
the biggest spenders, diabetes,
Right.
hypertension medications,
Usually diet and
cholesterol medication,
driven.
a lot of the antidepressants, GI things. I mean, those are all based pretty much lifestyle. And man, those are some of the most expensive.
And then the medications they give cause other problems, which they need an additional medication for to fix.
Of course.
I love watching the things on TV. It amazes me.
Yeah.
Well, there's an ad that we mocked in one of our shows, and it's the bent carrot medication. The name of the medication escapes me now, but I looked it up, and I actually read the patient information. This is not the information that is going to physicians and urologists that are injecting needles into your penis because you have a 20-degree bend. Okay, that's what it's for. All right.
Mm-hmm.
One of the side effects is you might hear a popping and crunching sound, followed by a massive hematoma that renders you impotent. And I was like, okay, who in their right mind would actually take this for a problem that's
there better be a lot of upside, if you know what I mean.
Really?
And there's not.
And there's not.
There would be no upside.
Studies, and you see the difference in this curvature. It's minimal.
Right.
But not only is there a market for it, there's a market that's big enough to sell a wildly expensive medication and advertise millions and millions of dollars during college football games, like absolute prime time. And you're like, this is just beyond. I mean, I looked at it just.
And then
laughed.
You looked up actually the data on how much it actually improved male sexual performance.
Well, it doesn't make any.
It was like 3%. I mean, like
no, it's a cosmetic problem. It's a problem for some men, but it's largely a cosmetic. And I'm like this, like we have like if space aliens came down from space and saw this, they'd be like, oh, forget it. Like we're out of here. Like this is completely insane.
And then there's the whole, I mean, we've done shows on direct to consumer marketing, how much money pharma spends on marketing. I mean, it is the biggest advertising budget on television network.
Oh, absolutely.
Everything is sponsored pretty much by the big corporations, starting with the letter P.
Every time you turn around, there's a commercial for a new drug. The ones for depression, I swear to God, it causes depression and suicidal tendencies. Why are you on it? Or the one Cyndi Lauper's on, isn't it for psoriasis or something like that? She's on every commercial because there must only be 4 people that have, psoriasis in the world, and they're on every commercial. And that can cause other problems. Is it really that bad?
Well,
I think I'd live with the psoriasis.
That's the thing. The new one,
the new one is eczema. Okay, yeah. So like if you have had enough psoriasis, I can understand why you could potentially take a immunomodulating agent. Okay. But if eczema, you are taking an immune modulating agent, which they admit on the ad may increase your risk for infections, may increase your risk for bizarre infections like tuberculosis, and
Right.
might give you lymphoma or leukemia.
These are extreme
And
cases.
you sit there,
severe
and it's
cases.
like, okay, I've done this for 31 years. And I'm sitting there going, I just haven't seen that much eczema in adults that you would go, oh, there's nothing I can do to treat this. It's like what happened? But I guarantee you, people are going in and they're getting this.
Oh, sure.
Otherwise, they wouldn't be spending the money on the advertising.
Just like using diabetes medications for weight loss now.
Right.
Yes, exactly. But I will tell you, there is a diabetes medicine that, and I don't have diabetes, but I was having breathing problems and they put me through everything, couldn't figure it out. Tried other medications, but they put me on Jardiance, which initially was supposed to be for breathing problems. And they turned it into a diabetic drug. And in order for me to get that medication, my doctor has to verify so much information that I'm afraid if he ever leaves practice, I'm not going to be able to breathe properly. So, I mean, the medications are crazy that are out there. And then for those of us who are on Medicare and you hit what they love to call that donut hole, which nobody can explain, you get to a point in the year you can't afford your meds.
Right.
I'm frightened to reach that Medicare.
Well, but it's so ridiculous because, you look at this is just, I mean.
Oh, I was going to just jump in for a second.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about the Medicare thing. Going back to Canadian system, just to compare, a lot of people think that's the other thing is all the medications are paid for. They're not.
They're not covered at all.
They're not covered at all.
They're price controlled to a certain degree, but their stuff is still, obviously really
So you're
expensive.
still paying for it up there. You have universal coverage for physicians across the board. Access is not just the same as here, but medications, no. And same, people buy supplemental plans, depending what province they're in, to cover it.
For meds, because that part's uncovered.
Right. And then the same thing for dental coverage or glasses, et cetera. So it's not like, oh, I'm happy to accept paying 45% taxes when I get to a certain income level and above, because then I have that peace of mind because I have bad health and my family history is bad. And I know I'm going to be on all these medicines when I'm old, everything's going to be covered. That's the thought you're going in with, and it doesn't work that way. Not in Canada. So a lot of people think that, and they say, well, I'm happy to pay 45% taxes and have all that covered because it's peace of mind for me. Well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but no, you're going to be paying for it on top of that. So,
and you're going to be paying 14% sales tax.
Yeah.
In virtually every province.
In every province
so
as well.
On top of the, because the progressive tax system is similar to here, except you get to 50% taxation at a much lower rate. So
there's, definitely got to be a better way. And I would.
So how do you feel about using alternative approaches? So again, local hospital has a whole department with acupressure, acupuncture, things like that. How do you feel that fits in from your perspective to help? Because we were talking about more prevention, right? Just doing things, watching your diet, weight, those types of things. How do you feel about those treatments? I
think that those treatments are things that everybody should be doing. It should be part of health in general. And that absolutely, we utilize all kinds of things, me more so initially, but we do hyperbaric therapy for our aches and pains, red light therapy. We're obviously big believers in fitness and diet and sleep, but I have a chiropractor I've used massage therapy forever for my migraines. We have people go do acupuncture for various things, modalities, and incorporate all these different things. We've seen a naturopath for health issues because we figured that they had more to offer us than a Western medicine-based practice for certain things. So I think all of those things have a place.
But once again, we get no coverage in healthcare for those. So even if a doctor does recommend them, which they do occasionally, right? Especially pain management, things like that, you can't get, it's a fortune. It
Correct.
is a fortune to cover those things.
And I agree. Like years ago, I would work with patients who would come in and I'm like, all they're going to pay for is a narcotic for their back pain. It would drive me nuts because I'd say, this isn't helping the problem and it's going to create another problem because they're going to become addicted. And it's the easy way out is to give them a pill where they need some PT or massage therapy for 5 to 10 sessions. In the long run, it's going to be putting them back to work faster, back in the workforce, costing less in the system. And you're right, it's not paid for. And it would drive me bananas.
Yeah, but you're making the assumption that it actually works. And the problem is that
that's the problem.
There's healthcare, which I hate the name because it's not healthcare. It's a business model to extract money out of people. Some of it works really good. Like if you need a hip replacement or a knee replacement or a cancer surgery, the United States is the place to be. It's wildly expensive, ridiculously overcharged for a bazillion reasons, but the care is outstanding. That part of the cutting edge technology stuff, we've done a tremendous job of. Okay. Now, the other side, which is where we come from, is a complete disaster. And it has been entirely co-opted by gigantic insurance companies, government regulation, and big pharma. So they're all in bed together. Pharma, the insurance companies, and the government. They're all in bed. It's just one back is scratching the next in a little circle. So big pharma donates to both parties like crazy. So nothing ever changes there. And then they get their protections in whatever bills pass. The insurance industry is essentially writing the laws so that they're protected and they donate like crazy. And then the regulators are the ones that actually they have the guns, so they enforce the regulations. And then people wonder why it's expensive. Well, it's expensive because there's no reason for it to not be expensive. I mean, why are iPhones way better now than when they came out in 2007? But the price really hasn't changed. It's because that's a truly free market. You don't have to have an iPhone, but people choose to do that. So innovation goes up and prices are controlled. I mean, flat screen TVs are ridiculous. When they first came out, they were what, like 10 grand for a 40-inch?
Yeah, now they're $300.
They're $300 and you get like a 95-inch TV.
Which nobody needs, but yeah.
Hairs on the guy. Yep. And that's what the real, that's Uber, that's, DoorDash, all of that is true free market. There is the free, again, I get real passionate about this because the problem with the American healthcare market is it's a co-opted market that's co-opted by the guys that write the rules.
Right.
How do you get out?
I
don't know.
Yeah. What I've seen in Cleveland is so many of our doctors who had private practices, those private practices have been taken over by the hospital. I've had a physician for the last 25 years. And 2 months ago, he told me he was retiring. And I looked at him and I said, but you said retirement was not a word in your vocabulary. He said, did I tell you I wanted to retire or I am retiring? He was just told by the hospital, you're going to lose your rights to the hospital. So, bye-bye. And I've seen it happen so many times, and that's not how it used to be. When a doctor was in private practice, he chose how late he was going to be because he wanted to spend more time with his patients. Well, so how do the two of you do this? Because your patients are getting true care.
Well, there's two ways. We have opted out of corporate medicine because for those exact reasons. And also because I don't want someone telling me, how I can do things. Now, the practice that I'm in and the primary care that I'm doing is we still take insurance. So, but we're our own entity. So, we can kind of do what we want. You just, obey the law and you have to obey the contract. Mm-hmm. There is another way, which I think is better. And it's called direct primary care. So direct primary care, you pay Usually, I mean, it depends on your age, but usually no more than about 100 or $120 a month, depending on where you are in the country. And you get a doctor. They are essentially on call 100% of the time.
Like a concierge doctor. That's what.
It's not concierge because it's a fraction of the cost. Most concierge would start at $500 or $600 a month.
Yeah, they're expensive.
No, direct primary care is very inexpensive. And so there's a lot of, I have a couple colleagues that are doing this. And what they did is they have a lot of patients in faith-based cost share programs where they're paying maybe $500 for essentially a high deductible insurance for their family. And then they're paying maybe $150 a month. So they're like $500, $600, $700 a month for their whole family. But the care they get is absolutely unbelievable because these physicians don't tend to have as many patients. They can spend as much time as they want. They get to know you. If you get a bladder infection and they know you get these every 6 months, they just call the prescription in. It's the way it used to be.
Right.
The way
family doctor.
Exactly. It's the way it used to be because it's deregulated and it's cash based. And that's why I'm a huge believer that if you wanted to affect, if you want to get around a lot of the co-opting of the insurance companies, of government regulators, of the pharma industry, that's what you do. You have to go out of the system because once you're in the insurance system, like I am still, he who pays the piper calls the tune. And that is still very true.
So what happens? This is what I can't understand in the healthcare system. So you have a primary doctor and you go to the hospital. You never see that doctor. You see the doctor who's on the floor that day, maybe for 2 days, and your specialist. And then your primary doctor, who's the person that follows you, supposedly, has no knowledge of what's going on, can't even come in the hospital to visit. I don't understand that system. So are you able to go in and see your patients since you're not part of the system necessarily?
I would say, so we've been out of a system like that for a while, but you're right. I mean, we worked in the system where we took care of our own patients. And then as things started to morph, they hired hospitalists to make it, doctors were complaining with call and taking care of people. And it's first we had, on-call nurses for us for the week and the weekends. And then it was, well, let's have a doctor that just specifically takes care of the patients in the hospital, because then you won't have to round on your own patients every morning and on the weekends. And it was to take the burden and make lifestyle better. But you're right. There was a trade-off for patients and physicians, because then you start to lose control as well as knowledge of what's going on. I think it would depend on what system you're in, if you're allowed to go in there or not. I mean, I think you can go and visit as a friend, but not as a overseeing.
Right, exactly.
Correct.
But yet when they leave, the care goes back to you.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you're missing a piece.
Yes, but there's some advantages in hospitalists. And the biggest advantage, I mean, there's a huge lifestyle advantage when you're a busy primary care doctor, because you're not working in the hospital, which doesn't necessarily reimburse that well. And you have to keep up on a lot of this hospital stuff. That's good because it makes you a great doctor, because you actually see sick people. Okay. The bad is you may not be as skilled as somebody that only does hospital medicine. So there's a lot of rationale to say, look, we have people that all they do is hospital medicine. Now you lose the continuity, which is an issue, because if I'm admitting a patient that I've taken care of for 15 years, that's a completely different experience than somebody just seeing them for the first time.
Right.
So there's a pro and con in that. Where there's a problem, which there's been a problem, this problem started as soon as there was 2 different doctors, which is handing things off.
Mm-hmm.
And the handing off is an issue, because not everybody has the same electronic medical records. So it can be hard to transmit.
So true.
That boggles my mind. I think maybe it reflects on our age and our training or what, but I don't understand why people can't pick up the phone, call the doc and just say, hey, am I missing anything? Your patient's in here. This is what's going on. It could be just a kidney stone to a more complex, like pulmonary embolus. They're in there.
Believe you me, I am that go-between for my mother who's in rehab.
And just like this, yeah, here's the deal. Am I missing anything? Is there anything I
Yeah.
know that wouldn't be in this record that I have access to that would make care of them easier? Like, do they have a mental status problem or dementia and they're not understanding? Or is their baseline breathing always this terrible? Or are they, I mean, all it takes is 10, 15 minutes.
Well,
I don't know that either. And maybe I'm missing something and ignorant, but I think a simple call, and it's maybe one more thing to add to the list in a busy doctor's day, but would make the ultimate thing is we're there to take care of patients.
Well, most of the time, the nurse practitioners make the calls anyway. I rarely ever speak directly to the doctor. And lately, I haven't even seen the doctor. I take my mother there, and it's a nurse practitioner that is seeing her. But either way, with her being in rehab, I have been that go-between. I picked a doctor in there, the doctors who monitor the rehabs and nursing homes that belongs to the same system, yet they still don't talk to each other. So I had to get the records. I had to send the records, make sure that they were in hematology, and took her out for that appointment because of her blood work. Nobody else did that. It's terrible that she would fall between the cracks if she didn't have me and my sister following up with everything. I don't know who would be taking care of the problems that have developed.
It makes me think of, I did a mission trip years ago of my first one. It's in Mongolia, and we literally were in this scary hospital. Somebody's family member was admitted to the hospital. You would have nothing in there other if your family didn't take care of you, including food, pretty much every supply. And if you wanted to see the doctor, you had to take them downstairs to meet the doctor for the appointment, or the doctor wouldn't see you while you were in the hospital.
Wow.
So family members had to take them down there. And I mean, I don't think we'll get to that point. Let's knock on wood, right? But you're right. It's like if you're having your family member advocate and get records and coordinate care. I mean, come on.
Right. But if we didn't learn this in the last 3 years, then we didn't learn very much. Patients, regardless of it's me as the patient, patients need advocates.
They do.
And you can, if you go in with there was stories during COVID of like 10-year-olds and younger being left alone in ERs with no parent there because of this virus that's so scary, which is just like, it makes me so seethe with anger. Like that is so unbelievably cruel and inappropriate. And it's just, it really shows the point that you have to have an advocate. And the fact that,
well, the family doctor I have done used to be that, and the quarterback for it.
But you still need a family person to be the advocate. The fact that I have worked in this for so long, and I have worked at all different levels. I've been on the parent board of a $1 billion a year multi-hospital system. I've worked at all different levels in insurance companies as far as, some medical oversight and quality of care, et cetera, pharmacy and therapeutics, blah, blah, blah. And I can't still decipher a bill that they send me. And I still can't necessarily navigate the system. So if I can't do it, how is a 82-year-old frail elderly person with the beginnings of dementia going to navigate it? The answer is they're not.
They're not. And the only reason that I'm able to really navigate is I work in the senior care industry. So I've worked in an assisted living, independent, and memory. I've worked in a SNF. So I can at least navigate. I may not know everything, but I know where to find the information if I don't know it. I can see the people there who are totally on their own. I don't know. I really don't know what happens to them. And it's very sad. Somebody needs to stand up for them.
It's scary because when my son got ill last week, of course, who did he call? Dr. Mom, who does not have training or a license. He was in so much pain, and it wasn't his chest. I kept saying, call EMS. You don't have a choice. And he waited till the next morning to call. It was not his heart, but it was a gallbladder that was about to rupture. And they saw it in the x-ray, and the ultrasound, but they said, well, we have to do a CT scan. So 3 or 4 hours later, they do a CT scan. Well, we now really need to confirm it in an MRI. He'd been sick from 11 o'clock the night before. It was like 7 o'clock the following night. And they're saying, yes, you need emergency surgery. But you know what? We're going to do it robotically. And they went in robotically and, oh, we can't do this because guess what? Your gallbladder is 3 times its size. In one of those tests, they should have known what they were going in to find.
Well, they do that to bill more.
Yeah. And I was there. I was acting as his advocate long distance. And then I finally flew down here. I said, he's 32 years old. He's never been sick. He can't do this on his own.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, and that's, I think of that and I rewind, and you rewind that to like 1976. And what would have been different? They would have laid a hand on his belly and they would have gone, wow, we think it's your gallbladder. We're going in for surgery. That's what would have happened. You would have got a lot of morphine. After the surgery was done, the surgeon would have walked out. He would have dictated. He would have had a cup of coffee in one hand and a smoke in the other. That's what would have happened.
That's true.
And it's 100% true. I mean, we worked with all these guys, and we had a guy that was a cardiothoracic surgeon at the hospital we trained at, and he couldn't make it through big lung cancer surgeries because he had to have a smoke. and people would flick him all sorts of crap, and he was like, "Yeah, at least I know how I'm going to die." And great surgeon.
It's the other. I'm thinking the same thing happened to my father. Another extreme. He was a highly functioning, active 82-year-old and collapsed unconscious in the parking lot after leaving the dentist's office. So the ambulance takes him to the hospital, and I get there it was a half an hour. He's still mostly unconscious, kind of obtunded, had been incontinent. His oxygen level's low. And so the ER doc is doing all these tests, and like, well, this test is normal and this test is normal. And well, he's kind of coming around, and we can't find anything wrong, so we're going to send him home. And I'm thinking, as the daughter, as a doc, I'm like, something's not right with this picture. So as a hospital doctor, you're not concerned at all that this highly functioning 82-year-old, like you said, your son is a healthy 30-something-year-old, is now had this life-altering event and you're ready to send him home because the tests all look okay. Aren't you concerned?
Yeah, but what were the tests? And the key,
I know, but
the key is that he was desaturating when he hadn't smoked a cigarette, other than behind the high school in 1946.
But it took me, plus talking to, thankfully, the nurse in charge in the ER that I knew, and she's like, "I'm going to advocate for your dad because something's not right." I'm like, "Well, heck yeah!" It doesn't take me being a physician to even go, "Oh, what about this, this, and this?" And then he got admitted, and the hospitals found out, he had his massive bilateral pulmonary emboli in both, saddle emboli and lung fields. He should have. He should have been dead anyway. But he would have been dead.
Without the CT scan, he would have gone home and died. Or, he shouldn't have survived anyways, which is miraculous. You're
right to his point. So, say if I wasn't around, who's going to advocate for him? Is he going to be lucky that some nurse coordinator is going to be on and just say, this poor gentleman?
Well, and they're all over. I will tell you, case managers, and they're all overworked, and they have so many patients, and they just do what they need to do that they feel is the safest part, and they move them on. The nurses, a lot of the nurses do that as well. And advocates today that are private are like $250 an hour. Once again, it's not really affordable to have an advocate that you pay for. Nobody's working at a reasonable price.
Yeah, we've created this system.
I'm willing to work for an unreasonable price.
We've created this system. We think for the better, where it's all chopped up again, and we've come full circle because we got recruited. The reason we came to the U.S. back in '94 was because the Canadian government was telling us where we could work because they were the ones in control of the dollars, and we said no thanks. But B, we had a system where everything was divvied up and all specialists, and people would just pick and hop between specialists, right? And there was no coordinator, and the insurance company said, this isn't cool. We need a quarterback. You need a primary care doc. So they were heavily recruiting primary care doctors to the US. And the whole thing was you had to have a PCP approve everything to coordinate care. And then that's totally changed. And now I think we're back.
No, but it's no. The Hydra, what's happened in primary care, if you are in the insurance model, is the Hydra has grown another leg.
Yeah, there you go.
So
So now
You used to see we are country doctors. You used to go to your country doctor. They do everything, right? My dad graduated in 1958. He took out tonsils. He did appendectomies. He became a specialist in anesthesia and still was a primary care doctor, but there was no residency for anesthesia then. So who cares? You just, use the ether, don't blow up the hospital, right? And so these people were really, really great at treating sick people, which is what I think that doctors should do. Okay. So then we get into managed care, which was in the early 90s. And it's like, we're going to try to get the quarterback, the primary care doctor, to manage more of it, kind of like it was back in the day. We're not going to just have everyone just go to specialists because it's too expensive. Okay, that's reasonable. That is a reasonable
At least they're
thing.
actually an advocate for the patient. They know the patient.
Right.
They're kind of coordinating.
Right.
But now what's happened is, again, we've grown another leg on the Hydra. And so now that leg is performance monitoring, which literally comes out. It smells like sulfur because it comes from the pits of hell. So they come up with these quality metrics. So it's not just we want the doctor to be the primary care doctor to be your advocate. We're going to tell them what they advocate for. Okay. That all grew out of the stimulus package in 2008 and the ACA. And so we've taken highly skilled practitioners and made them box tickers. So if you could be 50 years sober, and if you haven't been seen in 6 months, you're going to go in and the medical assistant taking you, or the physician is going to ask you, how many drinks do you drink? I haven't drank in 50 years. So I'm a recovering alcoholic. Okay. Are you safe at home? Does your wife beat you? I'm a priest and I've been celibate my entire life. You should know that it's in the chart, and it's just,
you can't get beyond.
And yeah,
Right.
but I don't want to answer these questions because I'm here for a hangnail and I think I have an infection in my finger. It doesn't matter. We have to do this. Well, why do you have to do it? Because that's how you get paid. Because primary care doctors get paid very well on the back end if you tick enough of the boxes. And some of them are reasonable. Like, are you asking people about screening colonoscopy? Are you controlling people's blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera? But some of it is just crazy. And so we have physicians that are so lost in the weeds because they're pressured by their employers to get the metrics right, because the employers make more money and the physicians make more money if you do all of these metrics. And then, but so everyone gets screened for depression. Well, okay. Is that good or bad?
And who's screening them? It's the person at the
Right.
check-in.
And then you sit there and
not
you go, well, what's going to happen if they're positive? Well, they might leave with a prescription. Well, who does that help?
Right.
They don't leave with a counseling appointment. They leave with a person, and so it's been so poisoned that even the advocates are losing their skills in just caring for people and doing what I think doctors should do. We shouldn't be in the preventive medicine business. We should be in the seeing sick people business. I think that dietitians and health coaches and physical trainers, they should be in the preventive business because what they do, it's far more cost effective to talk to a skilled dietitian about what I should eat, or a health coach about how I should behave, than a physician. You don't need my training to tell you smoking's bad.
We're trained in disease management.
You need my training to manage disease. That's it. But now they're making us health coaches. And I'm like, no, don't do that. It's super expensive and super inefficient. Then people wonder why they can never get access, because we're not doing our jobs anymore, because we're getting paid to do a different job. And most patients don't understand how their physician gets paid and why they're getting asked these questions. And it is 100% straight through payment.
Check
right
this
to
out.
the insurance companies.
I just had surgery on my arm on Friday. I'll wave that thing around in front of your camera, but let me tell you. So I had specialized orthopedic surgery on my elbow. And what was the first thing I go in for my appointment? I had this new doctor, great guy. The first thing on that, fill in the patient questionnaire tablet that they gave me. I kid you not. It wasn't, did you have an injury? What hand do you write with? It was, do you drink alcohol? Do you use drugs? Do you smoke? Are you depressed? And I got so frosted because even as I know why this is, I said to the receptionist,
You're an orthopedic surgeon. You shouldn't care about that.
Do with my elbow, because he's not going to treat me if I say, yeah, I'm an alcoholic or I smoke too much. He's not going to take care of that. It's all incentivized and paid because that's how the payment plans
Well,
work.
and then they limit the time. So once the doctor actually gets in, you've got 10 to 15 minutes tops. Then they start knocking on the door if you spend more time, because they're going to have to charge extra if you stay past that time.
Right. As family docs trained in family practice, I got mad in 2008 and 2010 and kind of left family practice, Ben, and did urgent care for that reason, because I got so incensed that they were controlling things. But if it's flooded over into urgent care. But my point would be, most of the time you feel someone fills that in on a tablet, and say they decide, I really want help today. I'm going to fill this in honestly because I'm here for help. Well, the receptionist, is that the person that you really want to open up and come clean to? Or is it MA that just is there to take your blood pressure, take your vitals, and, oh, are you depressed? Do you smoke too much? What happened? No, you want your primary care doc to be the one to say, hey, what's going on? And when you open up and say, yeah, I'm drinking 3 times as much as normal. I'm mostly drunk. This has happened this week. It's a real intimate moment and a door opening a moment to really do some good to that patient. And I just think it's disgusting how we just throw it on the front end to tick the box to get paid.
It's interesting. Well, if they said that they were drunk that much, I'd usually say I want to party with you, but that's a different story. So
know what I mean.
No, of course it is exceptionally intimate because you have to be very vulnerable. But it's interesting because as much as I think in totality, it's probably unhelpful to do most of those surveys. Every once in a while, you get somebody that answers it honestly, and it does open a door to a conversation that is potentially helpful. So it isn't like it's all bad. And I can't even impugn the motivations of the people that came up with this. That's not the issue. It's not that, Obamacare or the ACA or whatever you want to call it was set up with bad motivation. Okay. I mean, we like to get into this politically and, one side's good and one side's bad. Let's just assume good intention. Preventive medicine is a good thing. That's where this came from. And, if we can do more to prevent things, then we'll decrease costs, decrease hospitalizations, and we won't be doing expensive stuff. The problem is I think preventive medicine is the dumbest thing in the entire world, because you don't use medicine to prevent stuff. You use medicine to treat disease. You use diet and exercise and weight loss programs and meditation and prayer and good relationships to prevent things. And you can't medicalize that. That is beyond medicine. And there's hardly anything we do that's preventative that requires medical technology that does much. I mean, colonoscopies in the right patients are fantastic preventative tools. Mammograms in the right patients are reasonably good. Not as good as most people think, but they can definitely be helpful. No question about that. And have definitely saved lives. But this idea that you're going to take a highly skilled person that takes 10 years to train and then make them a health coach for preventative medicine seems insane to me. It's like taking my favorite impact wrench that I spent $400 for because I switched from air to electricity because I like building cars, and using it as a hammer. It's a terrible hammer, and you just destroyed the tool. And that's how I see what we've done to primary care. We're using an expensive, specialized tool for something that we could do wildly better, like way better. I mean, we've had health coaches that we've paid for. They're way better at encouraging me to exercise properly and eat properly than any doctor I've ever met.
Right.
And they're a fraction of the cost, even the expensive ones. And our coach takes videos and she's at her infinity pool in Laguna Beach. So it's probably working out okay for her. Sit there and you go, and it's totally worth it. And it's a fraction of the cost.
Part of, I think, our dilemma is people don't think it's worth it unless it's a physician. Not everybody, obviously. I was a fitness coach and, I did that. But I do think that the attitude of a lot of people is, well, the doctor's the one that's the expert. They can tell you what you need. They can tell you to go do exercise, not the other person, because they're not a doctor. And I think and we are a litigious society. So people are like, well, they gave me the wrong thing, I'm going to sue them. So they're looking for what they feel is the best expert.
No, you're
That's
right.
opening up a whole nother can of worms, I think.
It's laughable because I, by my own interests, I, would know quite a few things on weight training and diet and exercise. But I'm like, I'm really good at suturing and setting bones and putting casts on and the fine cooking of balancing certain medications and endocrinal this and that. But why that training and all that skill and that art I've learned in doing that, like now you want me to try to figure out how to tell somebody to how many weights they should be doing and how many reps, or motivate people. I'm not a good motivator. I'll just suck it up, Buttercup, because I do it. It's funny how the doctor says it.
Yeah, but if that's true, if what Melinda says is true, which I think is largely true as far as that's how people think.
Right.
But if you think that through logically, that not only do I know what blood pressure medicine to put you on, I'm going to know how to train you as a personal trainer, then you should lose your license if you're a fat doctor. Yeah. Doctors should lose their license.
I agree.
And like I said, don't take advice from a fat doctor. Now, you could take advice from a fat surgeon because they're cutting and putting stuff together.
Right.
But if they're giving you advice on, diet and exercise and diabetes and all of this stuff, do not listen to them because they, at minimum, don't believe it.
They're not walking their talk.
Yes, they don't believe it.
Right.
Now, everyone struggles with different stuff, but, and they can open up about that. But we've had a lot of colleagues that just gave up.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted the two of you on Melinda's show, and we're going to have you back because this conversation is so important, because so many of us, we just believe what our doctor tells us or what they say on the news or what we read in a magazine. And I'll tell you, I've seen so many doctors diagnose me wrong over and over again. I was told for 3 years there was absolutely nothing wrong with my knee, and I could hear it grinding constantly. And I finally found a doctor. I said, could you at least do an MRI because there's something really wrong? And the question was, how are you walking around like that? You have almost no knee left. It needs to be replaced. And for 3 years, I complained, and I was told, Karen, it happens with age. Well, you know what? If that's the case, it happens with age, then let's fix that a little bit. So
we would love to be back. I would just say to what your point, we have our thoughts, opinions, and obviously we have our biases on how to fix things. There's no easy answer, but to your point, the biggest thing that I think all physicians and healthcare people would agree is that patients need to, sadly, but you need to advocate for yourselves and not always trust what the physician says and get another opinion. And having lived through that, just even recently, this last year with this arm of mine, I had, it was the fourth specialist that I saw that finally listened to me when I say, this is what I'm feeling. Like everyone else seems to think I'm crazy and they want to do something else, to your point. And, I have a little bit more inside knowledge, and it actually could work against me because I'm a doc and I would maybe imagine too many things and know too much. But when you know that I'm not being listened to, and if someone says, oh, I think this is what you need, and it doesn't sit right with you, even as a physician, I would trust my gut and go, this doesn't feel right. Get another opinion.
Absolutely. I never work with a doctor that I can't talk to.
Right.
If you're not willing to listen and to what I'm actually going through, and then why am I here?
Right.
Because I live in my body. So
Exactly.
I know my body better than you do, and you need to listen. And if you're not willing to listen, then I can find somebody who will do that.
Right.
And we can work on
Exactly.
healthcare together, right? We can work on fixing it together. Before we go, because oh my gosh, we've gone an hour and 10 minutes. I can't believe it. But it is one of my favorite topics, I must say. And you guys have been amazing to be on and talking about the challenge of healthcare and medicine, because it is a challenge. And that's what this show's all about, getting through the challenges. But you have your own
Absolutely.
podcast, is that correct?
We do.
Can you just quickly state about your podcast?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we were just recording this morning. Our podcast is called BS Free MD. I think if Tim moves his head, you'll be able to see
There it is.
on that our little poster there. But yeah, BS Free MD. You can check out our website, bsfreemd.com. We're on most of the popular podcast platforms. Spotify and Apple are the most popular. And we post on social media, little antics and updates on Instagram and Facebook. We put our video now up on Rumble. We're working on our YouTube channel. So that's our podcast.
There you go. You're everywhere. Thank you so very much for being on. I hope the listeners will check out your podcast. We'd love to have you back, right, Karen? There's so much more we
Absolutely.
could talk about. Thank you.
Anytime, we would love to come back.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Have a great day. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I hope you liked listening to that episode and hope it didn't sound like kind of a, I don't know, complaining fest, a dump of all our problems, but things that you can relate to and know that you're not alone in your struggles to navigate the system. And we've done some podcasts lately about that. We did one last week with Jim Jordan talking about barriers to care, how patients can take care of their health better, what we can maybe do to try to get things improved and get the ball rolling for the future using tech, etc. So check out last week's episode about that as well. And meanwhile, we hope that you join us on our Docktails with Cocktails episodes coming out Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific time, where you get a chance to unwind, watch us in real time, and interact with us. We can answer your questions and just have a good time together, where you can share your thoughts and questions on various things. And we just share some fun topics going on for the week or what's on our mind that we don't really do in a podcast. And please, as always, share and rate the podcast. And the reason we ask you to do that is because it really does help push the algorithms up, meaning whenever you rate something or like us or post something up there, it bumps the podcast up in the search engine so that other people who are looking for medical podcasts or things and topics that we have can find us. So that's your way of giving back. Or as always, you can email us at doc@bsfreemd.com with all your questions that you may have, or reach us on our socials, Facebook, Instagram, and watch us on Rumble and YouTube. And for now, I will sign out saying, see you next time. Stay safe. I'm thinking stay safe, Tim, on that kite. And we will see you next week. Thanks for being here.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
While we try to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible, we can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.